I'm doing okay, but you're aging me there, so I'm taking a little bit of offense.
I apologize for that. Yes, we have a Brian Propp 1987 Stanley Cup jersey. Your name is inked right on the number 6 there. So we do remember that run fondly. But I'll ask you right off the bat here, number one reason in your mind that your team is not making a run in the Stanley Cup playoffs. What is, when you evaluate this team, why are you talking to me now about not making the playoffs?
Well, I think there's a number of reasons to pin it down to one, but I think our road record obviously stands out. I think our penalty killing stands out, and probably our lack of consistency throughout the year from game to game and even period to period. We need to improve in all those areas moving forward here.
Does that have to do with your roster being very young on the forward side? You talked about lack of consistency during the press conference today. Do you look and say, look, we got a lot of young players we rely on, especially on the offensive end?
Well, I'm not sure the young thing is an excuse. I think our players, they do need to learn from this year and get better. I think, critical moments is one of the areas that I think we need to get better. There are a lot of games we were tied or up a goal or down a goal that went the wrong way for us. I think sometimes we get a little bit anxious to score, and the way the game is now, it's really tough when you force things. Typically they come back and it ends up in your own net. So there's some areas where we need to get better at. And I also think there's some areas that we took some steps. Obviously Voracek took his game to a new level, and I think his leadership went to a new level. I think he's gained a lot of confidence over the course of the year, and in talking to him on Monday there, he seems to really know where he wants to be and where he's going, and real committed team guy, and understands kind of the ins and outs of being a leader now. I think Wayne Simmons the same way. He took a huge step this year leadership-wise, as I think Claude did as well. But I think when you look at that group, when you're pointing to them as your leaders, they are a young group, and they need to get better. And again, they took a step this year, and we expect them to be better come October.
Ron Hextall is with us, the Flyers GM. Ron, when a lot of people look at teams, you talk about a core, and who would you consider the core of this team? Who would make up that core group of guys that you really count on?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious. Giroux and Voracek finish at the top of the scoring race, but I think there's some other players. I think Michael Raffles, an underrated player. Obviously, Sean Couturier is a matchup player for us. It's a good player, and I think we tend to forget sometimes that he's 22 years old. I mean, some kids come out of college, they're 22 or 23 years old, and Coots has had 4 years in the league, so we tend to probably expect a little too much of him at a young age, but he's a good player, plays against the other team's top lines every night, and I think he's just touching the offensive ability that he has, and we expect it to continue to rise over the next few years. Braden Shen's the same. Obviously, Wayne Simmons is a good young player. And on defense, I think we've got Nick Schultz did a real good job for us last year coming in new. Michael Delzato obviously did a good job for us. Mark Streit was, I think, in the top 10 defense scoring in the league. Andrew McDonald towards the end of the year started to play the type of hockey that we know we can play and we expect them to play, and actually Luke Shen did a decent job. So I like our team. Do we need to get better? Yes. We'd like to, as I said earlier, add a skill forward and possibly a defenseman to upgrade our team. And we'll do everything we can between now and October to do that, short of trading our draft picks and prospects.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier today that you're not going to trade young players for 29 or 30s, and I think a lot of people would be on board for that. Would you look, though, mentioning those core players, would any of those guys be someone that you might say, hey, we got to give to get, and those guys might be someone we need, even if it's a lateral move in terms of age?
Well, that's all hypothetical. I mean, obviously, if there's a piece that fits better for your team than the one that you have, and it's a similar age, that's something you obviously look at. And I think you're as a manager, you're putting a puzzle together here, and you're trying to get not only all the pieces, but all the pieces that fit together, and that's the hardest part. But we've got a lot of, as you mentioned, good young forwards on our team. We got some solid defensemen. Mace has done a real good job for us in that, and we've got some real good pieces coming. So we're excited about certainly where we're going, but I got to find ways this summer to improve our team for next year.
Obviously, you didn't make a decision on the coach. Many people thought that would be announced in some way. Do you have a time frame, and is there a reason why you haven't had a gut feeling one way or another yet?
Well, we're still evaluating that part. There's a lot of things that go into it, and I want to make a decision when I have all the information and process it all and go through it. Quite frankly, I don't want to make a knee-jerk decision, and that's just the way that I operate.
All right, Ron Hextall, everybody here on the Sports Bash, as the Flyers finish the season. There will be no playoffs, and hopefully moving forward. I'll ask you this one last, Ron, as we go ahead. We know you have a lot of young defenders. Do you hope, as a GM, that one of those guys force you to put them on the on the NHL roster next year?
Well, I'm not sure I think about it that way. It's more like when they come into camp, is player X going to make our team better, and is player X going to maintain it over the course of the year? That's the hardest question to answer, whether they're going to maintain it over the year. Some kids in preseason, they play great. There's 10 NHL players in there, and they're not necessarily playing up to the level, trying to get ready for the season rather than playing at the top of their game. So you got to be careful there. But if a young player, whether a defenseman or forward, comes in and pushes us to make a decision, that's a good problem to have. And we do believe there will be some kids pushing in the near future.
The draft is up next for the Flyers. Ron, we appreciate a couple minutes of your time, and well, good luck this offseason. It's going to be interesting and challenging to see how you put this all together.
All right, I appreciate it.